There's old Jimbers lying in the sun, bless him. Oh, he's out. He knows I'm making a video, so with a huff and a puff he goes to sleep. So hello. Today I'd like to take a look at this, which is a programme, well, from the Royal Tournament from 1983. So what the Royal Tournament was effectively, it says there, for the benefit of service charities and the encouragement of skill at arms. And it was hosted at Earl's Court. And for years and years and years, I went to the show with my cousin. I come from quite a military background, in the sense I've never been in the military myself per se, but my grandfather was in the First World War, and all my uncles were in the Second World War, and they covered quite a wide range of things. Obviously, in these days, when the publication was made, the old the old weed was still advertised. You know, the old coffin nails were still legal to be advertised. So my uncles, well, one of them was in the Royal Navy on my mum's side. One of them was in the Royal Air Force on my mum's side, and the other one was in the army on my mum's side. And they all saw action. And on my dad's side, well, his sister's husband was in the Royal Air Force, and so I'm quite proud of that. I've, as I say, I've only ever been a cadet, and I wanted to be in the reserves, in the Marines, but I didn't make it through a motorcycle accident. My cousins, however, did. That one of them was in the Territorial Army, and another one was an officer in the Royal Navy first, and then he later became a 2-1 Special Air Service Territorial, because he passed selection. He actually passed the Special Air Service selection as Princess Anne, looking very, very beautiful, and of course the beautiful Diana, who's now no longer with us, and there's King Charles, of course. So I really enjoyed these shows. I used to go off to them with my cousin Peter. He used to always take me up there, bless him, and he knew I enjoyed these tattoos, as it were, these tournaments. And this one was particularly of great memory to me. I was actually there in '83. It was just before I left for Australia, in actual fact, and so one of the last times I ever saw the tournament. And a great day, really great day. So there's a lot going on in this programme, this magazine. There's talks about, you know, the Blitz and elements of the Second World War. So what that is, it's probably something I had for breakfast, isn't it? It's a cornflake, it is. But no, they were great fun, these tattoos. Really enjoyed it. Well, I keep saying tattoos, but it was a tournament, you know, it was a military tournament. And sadly no longer going. I don't know why, because there used to be all sorts of different. Everest was a double glazing company. What are you talking about though over there? He's talking about something, it is. So here we go. These are sort of part and parcel of this particular show, the mass pipes and drums of these various different guards and regiments, guards, units, and that's a great. Well, I don't know what it is actually. Is it charcoal? I think a charcoal drawing of a piper, of a Scotsman. Scots Guards, it says there at the top. Fantastic. Like it a lot. And yeah. So what would happen was you'd arrive at the show, and you'd sort of settle down, you know, and there'd be various different displays that you could walk around and view, usually from the RAF or the Army or the Navy or someone. And then you'd sort of actually settle down for the show itself, which would consist of sort of various different. It's nice to see these old adverts. The Pickfords were a removal firm. Various different, displays given to you by the various different armed forces. You can see the period because of this 1968 pattern DPM camo with the old British Army lightweights that they're wearing there. Obviously the early sort of computers for the Royal Artillery, for their rocketry and what have you. various different adverts. Yeah, my dad was in the military as well. Well, he was actually, I don't know if I mentioned this, sorry if I have. He was in national service, but he ended up actually fighting in combat, which was a bit of a shocker. I remember him telling me when he was called up and went to what was called the Malayan emergency in the 50s. You know, he remembered his dad's face, you know, looking at him very sort of upset because he knew what his son was about to face. Luckily, both survived. My grandfather, the First World War, which was amazing because he was actually in the Battle of the Somme, and he was a sergeant, and he also fought in the Dardanelles as well. A miracle. As my dad did survive as well. So this is the enclosure. What you have here, you have various different entrances, and as you can see, they have displays like the RAF display, the Army display, like I said, and the Royal Navy displays. And you'd walk around these first, and then you'd eventually find your seat in one of these blocks, and this arena would be where the show would take place. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful times. And this is actually a list of the events there. They even had sort of like things for the juniors, like tug of war competitions. By now, I was obviously quite old. Well, I was in my 16 or something like that, so I was, you know, not into tugging of war sort of things. But this was brilliant. I remember this vividly. The Royal Navy field gun competition. They had a 12-pounder gun, which is a remarkably heavy-looking thing on a cannon on wagons' wheels in it. And they used to strip it down, and then using an assault course like that, they used to have a race, 2 teams sort of thing. Sometimes Portsmouth versus Devonport, from the Royal Navy. You know, usually they were the sort of 2 looking down that line. Usually they were the 2 front runners. Obviously Britvic was a drinks company, so they've cleverly, you know, used their logo as in replace of the cannon, which these very burly lads would have stripped down, as I say, and dragged across. I was always I couldn't believe the size of them. They were like bodybuilder size, but fast with it, you know. Great fun to watch as a kid, anyway. Fantastic fun. Must have been pretty gnarly on your fingers and thumbs, though. I bet a lot of them were missing digits, you know. But now I'm coughing, innit? It's not the cough that carries you off, it's the coughing that carry you off in, innit? So this is a nice fold out, gatefold. On the one side, it's obviously part and parcel of the Battle of Britain, I've no doubt. And on the other side, it's the programme for the tournament, which shows you all the different events that were going on that day. Well, it was a week or something like that. I think it went for a week or something, maybe more. I don't know, to be honest with you. I only went there once. Obviously, I didn't go there every day. There was an interval, I remember, when my cousin used to pop off and grab himself a pint. Interesting to see the old cars of the era. You know, the old Austin Morris, they'd all joined together, British Leyland, I think they were calling themselves then. And I remember the motorcycle display teams as well. I think there was a group called the White Helmets. I don't see that in this programme for some reason, but there was definitely a group called the White Hats or the White Caps or something, the White Helmets, and they were very, very good. I remember this advert from when I was a kid. Fresh milk's got a lot of bottle. And yeah, awesome. And then so obviously here we are with the number 2 Squadron RAF. Quick QRA, quick reaction alert, which they'd have had. And of course this was not long after the Falklands War. This brochure came about. So here we go with the Linda Kitson, who is a Falklands official war artist. Very, very lovely sketchings in actual fact, very, very good. And there was Tumble Down, which is one of the battles at the Falklands. The Falklands, if you're not familiar, that was a war between the British Army and the Argentinian Army. The Falkland Islands are off the coast of Argentina. I believe they're called Las Malvinas in Argentinian. it could be construed as being very strange as to why Britain would have any sort of concept of that, but they do, and they weren't about to give it up. And so the Prime Minister of the day, Margaret Thatcher, decided she was going to send a task force down there to keep, because the Argentine... we rewind. So the task force was sent down there because the Argentinian government had decided they were going to take back their islands, which is probably fair enough, bearing in mind they're opposite them and all that. But the British, who had a colony there, said, no, we're not having it. And so first the Royal Marines went down there, and the Parachute Regiment, and then later, slightly later, the Guards regiments went down, like the Welsh Guards, Scots Guards, Irish Guards, I believe, were there, and well, a lot of other people who were equally as important. And a lot of people lost their lives, so it was pretty grisly, very grisly indeed, in actual fact. So hats off to them all, and the Argentinian people too that died, the poor lads that died on their side. Stupid warfare, whatever. Anyway, this is interesting. McDonald's sponsoring the Royal Marine Commandos. Yeah, I reckon you could get a lot of sugar out of a Big Mac. I love McDonald's, I can tell you. I go down there as often as I can get. Well, I don't get there that often. But, yeah, I do. That doesn't do me any favours either, watching this, because I love ale. Yes. Oh, my heaven. JCB, there, an advert for JCB. No, it's really good. And there was a horse and hound show jumping, which I used to love watching as a kid, definitely. Remember that vividly. And this was great fun too. The Wilkinson sword mounted skillet arms. That was these horse rider experts on horseback. I love horses. And they used to kind of pick things up with lances and stuff off the ground as they furiously rode past, you know, around this circuit. Great fun to watch, you know, really, really adrenaline seeking thing. And obviously there's Wilkinson sword, the famous razor blade manufacturer, or blade. They make blades, don't they? Generally, sort of thing. And they had a dismounted skillet arms. Taylor Woodrow was a huge building firm. Yeah, I remember them vividly too. If they're not all still going. What's this? Tug of war contest. Yeah, that's it. Look at that. Look at that. It's really interesting, isn't it? An old tug of war team. Yeah, why not? Let's go for it. Just some different bits and bobs and what have yous. And then obviously the adverts are coming in rife, you know, with the famous grouse Scotch whiskey. If you know, I do like bourbon, American bourbon too, I must say, but I think I prefer Scotch because, well, I'm from Scottish roots, so I can't not say that, can I really? I'll be ejected. Eject! What's that button for? It's the ejector seat. I haven't seen that for a while. Hofmeister. It's not over here in Poland, anyway. Bless them. That's a clever name, actually. British Limbless Ex-Servicemen's Association. Obviously, these poor devils have had limbs blown off in mines and what have you. That was one of the problems they had in the Falklands, was that a lot of the Marines, especially, ran into minefields that they weren't aware that were there. Obviously, otherwise they wouldn't have run into them. But they lost a lot of limbs in that way. Lloyd's Bank. Never a big fan of me, anyway. I wasn't a fan of them either. It might have had the fact to do with I didn't have much money in my account. In fact, I was probably always in overdraft, and they just got really, really pissed off with me. As I did them. The Black Horse, I remember, was their logo. So there's some sort of party there. Marley. Oh, I've worked with Marley equipment. Yeah, definitely. The old roof tiles are excellent, as are the... Well, I haven't done the paving, but I've done the roofing. And they also did, like, rainwear, as they call it. Gutters, you know, things like that were additional. Hello. It reminds me of that, my neighbour's wife coming out of the shower. I'm joking. No, it's not true. Or is it? So what's that? Holiday Inn. I've never been to one in England, but I've certainly been to one in the States when I was over there. They're great places to stay. Oh, there's the King Charles now, looking into the eyes of some very pretty looking young lady. So that's the Tournament Brigade. Charles was a para. he did do the para course actually, which was interesting. A lot of people think he's just honorary, but no, no. He said, oh, if I'm going to do this, I'll have to pass it. So he did. He did pass B Company. Interesting. There's the Navy. As I say, my cousin was in the Royal Navy as an officer. He wasn't particularly high ranking, but he was in the Navy as an officer, which was very. I admired him for that. Anyway. Oh, my other cousin Peter had this. He had one of these. Yeah, I remember that. Very good. And a parachute. I've actually been on a parachute. Can you believe it? I've probably told you this joke before, but it was like the fortunately tale I remembered when I was dropping down through the air. It's a joke, and it says, unfortunately, a man fell out of an aeroplane today. Fortunately, he had a parachute. Unfortunately, the parachute didn't open. Fortunately, there was a haystack below. Unfortunately, there was a pitchfork in the haystack. Fortunately, the man missed the pitchfork. Unfortunately, the man missed the haystack. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching. If you've got this far, all the very best wishes to you. That's the fat one, the little tub Jimmy. That's the fat one, me. I hope you enjoyed this or found it of some interest. The Earl's Court programme from 1983 for the Royal Tournament. Very much appreciated what you watching, guys and girls. All the very best wishes. Cheers.